The first light of dawn creeps across the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, spilling its pale glow over a kingdom trapped in ice. Snow drapes the land in silence, smothering every surface with a white so pure it blinds the eyes. Vast forests stand rigid, their branches frozen into crystal sculptures. Icy rivers lie captive under thick sheets of frost, their once roaring currents reduced to muffled whispers beneath the ice. Beneath this frozen stillness, life stirs. A lone howl fractures the dawn, carrying across the valley like a ghostly trumpet. Somewhere deep in the timberline, a wolf declares its presence to rivals and kin alike. Moments later, a raven answers with a guttural croak, black wings cutting across the pallid sky. The stillness is broken further still when the thunder of hooves shatters the frozen earth. An elk herd surges through the drifts, snow spraying in glittering arcs as they press forward. The stage is set for a struggle as old as time. Winter here is not simply cold, it is merciless. A predator in its own right. Temperatures plummet to 40 degrees below zero. Winds slice through fur and feather alike, and snow can bury the weak without warning. Each creature that dares to remain must fight not only its enemies, but the season itself. For the predators, this is both opportunity and peril. The wolf pack, lean and hungry, scans the horizon for weakness in the elk herd. For them, the snow is an ally, slowing their prey to exhaustion. Yet hunger is unrelenting, and each failed chase wastes precious energy that cannot be recovered in this frozen wasteland. For the prey, every day is a gauntlet of survival. The elk, antlers dulled from the autumn rut, must now use their strength not for dominance, but for escape. The bison, giants draped in shaggy coats of frost, lower their massive heads to sweep snow aside in search of buried grasses. Their endurance is unmatched, yet even titans falter in a winter that tests the very limits of flesh and bone. Above them all, the skies hold their own sentinels. Ravens, ever watchful, trace the steps of wolves, knowing that a kill will soon mean scraps enough to outlast another storm. Golden eagles perch high on wind-carved cliffs, their sharp eyes scanning for weakness far below. Every heartbeat, every breath, is measured against the merciless hand of the season. Here, survival is never guaranteed. It is fought for, stolen, earned, moment by moment, hour by hour. In the unforgiving theater of Yellowstone, the only certainty is struggle. The mountains stand as silent witnesses to this eternal war. The rivers flow unseen, locked beneath glassy ice. The forests wait, shrouded in frost, holding secrets of life and death beneath their frozen canopy. And so begins the endless trial. Welcome to Yellowstone, where winter is not a season, but a trial by ice. In Yellowstone's frozen valleys, the silence of snow is rarely permanent. It is broken by the pursuit of life and the inevitability of death. Here, every shadow moving through the frost belongs to either the hunter or the hunted. The wolves, Yellowstone's most iconic predators, patrol the drifts in disciplined formation. Their paws sink into the powder with silent precision, bodies moving in unison like shadows stitched into the snow. They are not wanderers without purpose. Their yellow eyes scan the horizon, always searching for weakness among the herds. A limping elk, an aging bison, a calf straying too far from its mother. These are opportunities, fleeting and vital. The pack's survival depends on them. Yet wolves are not alone in this frozen hunt. Coyotes, smaller but equally cunning, watch from the periphery. They lack the power to challenge the bison or elk, but their patience is their greatest weapon. Where wolves bring down giants, coyotes inherit the scraps. And when snow buries the meadows and starves the land, coyotes shift their focus to rabbits, voles, and pronghorn fawns, prey that demands agility rather than force. Then, there is the cougar, the phantom of Yellowstone's forests. Unlike wolves or coyotes, the cougar does not announce its presence. It waits, cloaked by the density of pines and the dim of dusk. Its power is not in the pack, but in silence and patience. A single leap, a burst of muscle, and a deer collapses into the snow. While wolves chase, the cougar ambushes. Two different strategies, one singular purpose: survival. And so, the prey must endure the endless siege. Elk, driven from higher altitudes by deep snow, gather in lower valleys. Their herds move cautiously, hooves breaking through the crust of ice with every step. For them, wolves are a constant shadow, a single moment of hesitation, a stumble in the drifts, and the pack will strike with brutal efficiency. The bison, armored in thick coats and brute strength, seem untouchable at first glance. They swing their horned heads to scatter the snow, revealing brittle grasses buried beneath. But predators know patience. Even titans weaken under weeks of scarcity, and a single old bull, slowed by the cold, can provide a feast that sustains wolves, coyotes, and scavengers alike. The pronghorn, fleet-footed even in winter, face a different challenge. Their speed is unmatched across open plains, yet deep snow robs them of their gift. When storms press them into the valleys, their legs sink and the hunters close in. Their survival rests not in combat but in distance, and distance is a luxury that the Yellowstone winter rarely grants. This is the paradox of Yellowstone. Predators thrive only if prey endures. Too many losses, and the hunters starve. Too few, and the herds collapse. It is a fragile balance, written in paw prints and hoof marks across the frozen land. Yellowstone, a land forged by fire and sculpted by ice, becomes an entirely different world when winter takes hold. Stretching across nearly 9,000 square kilometers, it is a vast wilderness of contrasts. Steaming geysers erupting in defiance of the frost, endless forests of pine and fir buried beneath snow, and sprawling valleys where rivers lie imprisoned under glassy layers of ice. The geography itself dictates survival. Towering peaks funnel the storms, unleashing blizzards that can bury an entire herd overnight. The valleys, though wide and open, act as natural traps. Winds sweep across them, leaving prey exposed while predators lurk in the shadows. Forests provide refuge, but even there, snow piles thick on branches, bending them under its weight and concealing danger within the undergrowth. Each corner of this ecosystem offers both opportunity and risk, shelter and snare. And then, there is the water. Yellowstone's rivers and lakes, normally lifelines for countless species, harden into frozen arteries through much of the season. Beneath the ice, cutthroat trout and other fish continue their secret lives, unseen by the animals above. For otters and beavers, these waterways remain a source of sustenance, but only through remarkable adaptations and endless effort. Elsewhere, geysers and hot springs puncture the frozen expanse with warmth, creating strange oases of steam and green. Bison huddle near the thermal basins, grazing on grasses that would otherwise be locked away until spring. These pockets of warmth are rare sanctuaries in a kingdom dominated by cold. The climate here is merciless. Nights can plunge to 40 degrees below zero, a temperature that sears lungs and freezes exposed skin in moments. Storms roll across the land like white avalanches from the sky, reducing visibility to nothing and disorienting even the strongest of animals. Snow, beautiful yet brutal, becomes both a blanket and a barrier, protecting small creatures beneath its crust. while exhausting the large beasts forced to wade through its depths. For those who endure, every adaptation is tested. Thick winter coats grow heavier with frost. Fat reserves burn away with each passing day, and instinct becomes the difference between survival and silence. The animals of Yellowstone are shaped by this crucible. Some migrate to gentler grounds, others burrow deep and wait, and many remain to face the storm head-on. Each strategy is a gamble against time and temperature. Yet for all its cruelty, winter here is not only destruction. It is a sculptor, chiseling the character of every species, reminding each of its limits, and ensuring that only the resilient continue. This season is not simply endured, it is survived through strength, cunning, or sacrifice. The stage is set. Snow blankets the valleys, steam rises defiantly from geysers, rivers groan beneath their icy armor, and the forests stand frozen in silent witness. In this frozen kingdom, each species must adapt or perish. They move like shadows across the white horizon, hulking shapes rising from the snow-covered plains. America's last great giants, Yellowstone's bison, stand as living monuments to survival. In winter, their endurance becomes legend. A herd gathers in the Lamar Valley, the cold air thick with steam from their nostrils. Frost clings to their shaggy coats, turning their already formidable frames into ghostly silhouettes. Each step is laborious, hooves crunching through layers of ice. Where the snow drifts deepest, they lower their massive heads, swinging them side to side like living snowplows. Beneath the frozen crust lie hidden grasses, the thin lifelines that sustain them through the endless winter months. This is a ritual etched into their very being. For thousands of years, bison have faced these trials, their survival woven into the rhythm of the seasons. They are built for the cold, thick hides layered with insulating wool, strong muscles carrying reserves of fat, and a resilience unmatched by most mammals on the continent. Yet even titans have limits. The herd is never entirely safe. From the ridges, predators watch with patient eyes. Wolves know the strength of a bison well. A single bull can weigh more than a ton, too dangerous for even a pack to tackle lightly. But predators do not seek the strong. They wait for weakness. A calf lingering at the edges, a cow slowed by hunger, or an old bull, ribs beginning to show beneath its fur. These are the cracks that nature exploits. When wolves descend, the snow itself becomes part of the battlefield. Bison press together, forming a wall of horn and muscle. Mothers shield their calves, lowering heads to repel any predator that dares to test them. Wolves circle, probing for hesitation. A moment's panic, a gap in the formation, and the pack will surge forward. But often the giants hold their ground, and the predators retreat, conserving their strength for another day. Yet winter's hunger is relentless, and not all battles end in stalemate. Somewhere in some valley, an aging bull collapses beneath the weight of frost and famine. The wolves close in, their howls echoing through the trees, and the balance of Yellowstone is maintained. For the wolves, it is life. For the scavengers who follow, the coyotes, the ravens, the eagles, it is salvation. Even in death, the bison sustains an entire chain of survivors. Still, the herd presses onward, their movement slow but steady, carving paths through snowdrifts that will later serve other creatures. They are not merely beasts of burden. They are architects of the ecosystem, shaping the land with their passage and feeding life with their sacrifice. Against the blizzards, against the predators, against the very weight of winter itself, the bison endure. They are the titans of the frost, guardians of Yellowstone's frozen plains, living proof that survival is not always about speed or cunning, but about sheer, unbreakable endurance. From the ridges above the frozen valleys, shapes begin to emerge. Sleek, tawny bodies move in cautious unison, pressing down narrow trails cut into the snow. These are Yellowstone's elk, one of the park's most numerous and most hunted inhabitants. As the snows deepen in the high country, the herds abandon their summer ranges and descend into the valleys. Here, the grass lies buried but reachable, and the land, though exposed, offers at least a chance at survival. Yet with every step down into the lowlands, the elk enter the hunting grounds of Yellowstone's wolves. The stags, once kings of autumn, now bear the scars of their glory. Only weeks earlier, their haunting bugles echoed across meadows, and their antlers clashed in battles for dominance. The rut demanded everything: energy, fat, strength. And now, with the snow thickening around them, they are shadows of their former selves. Their antlers, massive crowns of bone, remain as heavy burdens. Their bodies, gaunt from exhaustion, move slower than the rest. In the harsh calculus of winter, these proud stags are no longer rulers, but the most vulnerable of all. The herd senses danger in every sound. A crack of ice along the riverbank, the distant caw of a raven, the sudden hush of wind, each could herald predators. Wolves are patient hunters, and elk are their favored prey. From the timberline, sharp eyes watch, yellow and unblinking. When the chase begins, the land itself becomes an accomplice. Elk attempt to dash across frozen rivers, but their hooves slide helplessly on the glassy surface. The snow, heavy and unyielding, saps their speed. Wolves, by contrast, glide with long, sure strides, their paws designed to spread weight across the crust. Step by step, the advantage shifts. The herd rallies together, pressing calves and weaker members to the center. Stronger cows lead the way, their movements decisive and urgent. But the wolves are relentless. They fan out, circling, harrying the edges. A single elk that strays too far, a moment's stumble on the ice, can decide the outcome of the chase. Sometimes, the herd escapes. The wolves retreat, tails low, conserving what little strength hunger has left them. Other times, the predators succeed, dragging down a staggering stag or an exhausted cow. In those moments, the valley erupts with sound, wolves snarling, ravens croaking, the desperate thrashing of prey until silence returns. But even in death, the elk sustains life. Its body feeds not only wolves but coyotes, foxes, eagles, and the frozen earth itself, where nothing is wasted. The cycle continues, merciless yet necessary. For the elk, winter is not merely a season of hunger, it is a gauntlet of constant pursuit. Each day survived is a victory. Each night endured a gamble against the odds. And as the cold deepens, as storms blanket the valleys and rivers freeze harder, the hunters will return, ever watchful, ever patient. They emerge like phantoms from the tree line, sleek gray bodies blending seamlessly with the snow. Eyes gleam amber in the pale light, ears pricked forward, noses lifted to the scent of prey. The wolves of Yellowstone move with purpose, their every step deliberate. In this frozen kingdom, they are both feared and admired. Masters of strategy, unity, and relentless persistence. For wolves, the snow is not an enemy, but an ally. Their broad paws spread across the surface, allowing them to glide where elk and deer sink helplessly. Every chase is a test of endurance, a battle not of speed, but of stamina. They know that if they can keep their quarry moving long enough, exhaustion will do the work of teeth and claw. A hunt begins with patience. The pack spreads, fanning across the valley like shadows, testing the herd for weakness. Elk scatter, but the wolves are not fooled by the strong. They probe the edges, watching for a stumble in the snow. A calf falling behind, a stag's labored breath. The moment hesitation shows, the attack begins. The chase erupts with sudden violence. Snow explodes beneath pounding hooves, steam rising from the herd as panic sets in. The wolves pursue in shifts, one group driving the prey forward, others circling to cut off escape. Their coordination is wordless, a silent language written in instinct and perfected over generations. An elk stag, gaunt from the autumn rut, falters at the edge of a frozen river. His hooves skid across the slick surface, balance lost. In an instant, the wolves close in. One clamps onto his flank, another lunges for the throat. The struggle is brutal, desperate but short. As the stag collapses into the snow, silence follows. Broken only by the victorious howls of the pack echoing across the valley. But the story of wolves is not only about the kill, it is about the bond that makes survival possible. At the carcass, the alpha pair feeds first, their dominance ensuring order. Soon after, the rest of the pack gathers, tearing into the prize with urgency. Pups, sheltered by the warmth of the group, are brought scraps. Even the lowest-ranking wolves are eventually fed, for a kill is not merely sustenance, it is shared life. In the long nights of winter, wolves huddle close, using their collective warmth to endure the bitter cold. Their howls carry across the snowfields, binding them together, declaring their presence to rivals, and reminding the wilderness that Yellowstone still belongs to them. Unity is their strength. Strategy is their weapon. Without each other, they would falter, as solitary predators stand little chance in this frozen land. But together, they endure, thriving where others perish. Amid the sweeping whiteness of Yellowstone's winter, a smaller shadow slips across the snow. Not as massive as the wolf, nor as feared as the cougar, but every bit as clever. The coyote, lean, wiry, and resourceful, carves out its survival in the cracks left behind by others. Where wolves charge in with power and elk thunder in herds, the coyote thrives on subtlety. Opportunists by nature, they patrol the edges of wolf territory, ears pricked for the sound of a kill. A coyote's sharp senses can detect the scent of blood on the wind from miles away. Drawn by the promise of an easy meal, they trot across the snow, tails low, eyes glinting. But Yellowstone is not kind to opportunists. To scavenge from wolves is to flirt with death. Packs do not share willingly. A coyote daring to steal scraps risks being chased, even torn apart. And yet, time and again they return, because survival is worth the gamble. The wolves bring down an elk in a frenzy of power, the snow stained red. Once the pack feeds, they retreat to rest, leaving little behind. But a little is enough. Coyotes sneak in, darting quick as ghosts, snatching sinew, gnawing bone, seizing whatever fragments remain. It is a life of patience, timing, and audacity. Still, scavenging isn't their only trick. Coyotes are hunters too, masters of the small game that burrow beneath Yellowstone snow. Watch closely in winter, and you may see one pause, ears swiveling like satellite dishes. Beneath the powder, a vole scurries, hidden and safe, or so it believes. The coyote cocks its head, calculating. Suddenly, it leaps high into the air, diving nose first into the drift. With uncanny accuracy, it bursts up victorious, prey dangling from its jaws. These acrobatics are more than survival. They're artistry, honed over centuries. While wolves need herds and cougars stalk forests, the coyote survives by being endlessly adaptable. Snowstorms, blizzards, even the deep freeze of -40 degrees Celsius nights cannot break its resolve. Yet Yellowstone is never without hierarchy. Coyotes live at the mercy of larger predators. Wolves kill them when territory lines are crossed. Cougars ambush them if caught unaware. Even golden eagles have been known to swoop down on their pups. And still, the coyote endures. It bends, but never breaks. Their cunning also lies in cooperation. While they are not as tightly bonded as wolves, coyotes form pairs or small family groups, hunting together when possible. In winter, this teamwork increases their odds, flushing hares, chasing rabbits, or protecting dens. Where one falters, another steps in. Some call them tricksters, others survivors. In truth, they are both. To endure in Yellowstone's winter means adapting to whatever role the moment demands: scavenger, hunter, thief, or ghost. And in this brutal landscape, versatility is often the sharpest weapon of all. If the wolf is the warrior of Yellowstone's winter, the cougar is its assassin. Rarely seen, almost never heard, this great cat exists like a whisper among the trees. To encounter one is to brush against the edge of mystery itself. Winter in Yellowstone makes ghosts of many things. The snow shrouds valleys in silence, concealing tracks and muting sounds. This is the cougar's domain. Unlike wolves who rely on numbers and coordinated tactics, the cougar is a solitary shadow. It moves through the frozen forests with the grace of silence. Every step precise, deliberate, almost rehearsed. Its amber eyes cut through the gloom like twin embers, scanning for weakness. Unlike coyotes who scurry, or wolves who pursue, cougars do not chase across the tundra. They wait, they plan, they ambush. The deer edges nervously along a snowy ridge, the powder crunching softly beneath fragile hooves. Above, on a boulder cloaked in frost, a cougar lies still, muscles coiled like springs beneath its tawny coat. Breath steady, measured. Hours may pass like this, snow falling, wind hissing through the pines until the moment arrives. The deer hesitates. That single falter is enough. With an explosive leap, the cougar descends. Snow bursts into the air like shattered glass. The impact is silent compared to the chaos of a wolf hunt. No howls, no pack coordination, only the raw, brutal efficiency of one predator against one prey. A suffocating bite to the neck, swift and decisive. By the time the forest realizes what has happened, it's already over. This hunting style is the cougar's gift and curse. Unlike wolves, which can bring down large elk through teamwork, cougars must gamble everything on surprise and precision. Deep snow can aid them, slowing down prey, but it can also hinder, making each stalk a test of endurance. If the strike fails, there is no pack to fall back on, only hunger and exhaustion. Yet cougars are adaptable masters. They target mule deer most often, but will take elk calves, bighorn sheep, or even the occasional coyote if desperation presses hard enough. Their kills are not consumed in a frenzy. Instead, the cougar drags its prize into concealment beneath fallen logs, into thickets, or covered by snow. There, it returns night after night, feeding slowly, carefully. This secrecy is survival. Because in Yellowstone, even the ghost of the Rockies is not untouchable. Wolves will steal kills if they find them, and scavengers of all kinds, ravens, coyotes, even bears when they stir, wait to exploit any opportunity. The cougar, despite its strength, remains a solitary figure in a land ruled by numbers. What makes the cougar so compelling is not only its power, but its invisibility. Tourists may spend a lifetime exploring Yellowstone and never glimpse one. A flicker of movement on a ridge, a shadow slipping between snow-laden branches, that may be the only sign. And yet their presence shapes the ecosystem as much as the bison, the elk, or the wolf. Above Yellowstone's vast frozen expanse, where the snowfields stretch unbroken for miles, two winged survivors claim their place in the winter struggle. The ravens and the eagles, creatures of the sky, live by shadows, following the fates of others. They do not conquer through teeth or claws. They endure by watching, waiting, and swooping when death leaves its spoils. The raven comes first, a dark silhouette against blinding white, its wings cutting across the gray skies like strokes of ink on canvas. Intelligent, cunning, and always present, ravens are the opportunists of Yellowstone's winter. They have no need to chase bison or corner elk. Instead, they trail behind wolves. When a pack succeeds in bringing down a staggering elk, the ravens arrive almost instantly, as if summoned by instinct or by some ancient pact. Their croaks echo across the frozen valley, sharp and unyielding, announcing to all, a feast lies here. On the carcass, they show no hesitation. Beaks hammer at frozen flesh, tearing strips of meat. But their true genius lies in persistence. A raven will stand atop the ribcage of a wolf's kill, pulling at sinew until even the stubborn fibers give way. Some learn to roll in the snow, wiping blood from their feathers to stay warm and clean. And when the wolves grow weary or wander away, the ravens claim what remains. Their black shapes scattering across the snow like spilled ink. High above them circles another master of winter, the eagle. With wingspans that stretch wider than the outstretched arms of a man, golden eagles and bald eagles soar in silence, their keen eyes searching the valley below. They do not waste energy. They do not strike unless the odds are certain. When they descend, it is swift, precise, a blur of power against the white backdrop of snow. Eagles, too, trail the wolves. They bide their time, perched on skeletal trees, watching the struggle unfold from afar. When the wolves scatter, when the coyotes retreat, the eagle drops from the sky, talons striking the frozen remains with a force that leaves no doubt who now rules the carcass. Even the boldest raven knows when to step aside. Yet ravens are not easily discouraged. They work in numbers. While an eagle feeds, a dozen ravens descend, darting in and out, harassing, pulling, distracting. One grabs a loose tendon and runs, another tugs at an exposed flank, while the eagle lashes out with its talons in frustration. It is a battle of wit versus power, and though the eagle often prevails, the ravens always take their share. Together, these skyborn scavengers embody the harsh wisdom of Yellowstone. Survival is not only about strength, but about timing, patience, and seizing every chance. They are the watchers in the cold skies, the dark messengers of winter. In a land where wolves chase elk, where bison break through snow, where cougars wait in silence, ravens and eagles remind us that even death feeds life, and in Yellowstone's frozen theater, nothing is ever wasted. The winter silence of Yellowstone is broken by the faint crunch of paws on ice-crusted snow. A red fox emerges from the tree line, its fiery coat blazing like a torch against the endless white. Alone, it traverses the frozen expanse with a fluid grace, ears twitching, nose low, every sense sharpened to the hunt. Unlike the wolves or the cougars, this predator does not chase herds or stalk giants. Its quarry is hidden, buried beneath layers of snow and frost. Rodents, voles, and mice, tiny lives eking out survival in the subnivean world below. And yet, to the fox, these creatures are lifelines, the fuel for endurance in a land where hunger is a constant companion. The fox pauses, head cocked, ears pricked forward. It listens. Beneath the snow, faint vibrations ripple upward, the sound of a vole scratching through its frozen tunnel. The fox freezes, body taut as a bowstring. Its ears triangulate the source, adjusting ever so slightly to pinpoint the movement. Then, in a single heartbeat, the acrobat takes flight. It leaps skyward, arching with an elegance that defies the harshness of the winter. For a moment, time suspends, the fox a silhouette against the pale sky. Then it plunges, nose first, vanishing into the snow with an explosion of powder. The dive is iconic, almost theatrical, a perfect blend of instinct and precision. Sometimes, success. The fox surfaces, a mouse wriggling in its jaws, steam rising from the fresh kill. Other times failure. It emerges empty-mouthed, shaking snow from its muzzle, only to stalk onward, unfazed, patient. In winter, persistence is the true mark of survival. Yellowstone foxes are not merely hunters, they are performers in nature's silent ballet. They repeat this dance countless times a day, each leap a gamble between nourishment and starvation. Their bodies are built for it. Keen hearing that can detect prey beneath feet of snow, powerful hind legs coiled like springs, and an uncanny ability to orient their dives almost perfectly northward. Guided perhaps by the Earth's magnetic field, yet this mastery comes with risk. Deep snow can hide dangers. Coyotes lurk, eager to steal a fox's catch. Eagles swoop without warning. Even wolves, though far more preoccupied with elk and bison, will not hesitate to dispatch a fox that wanders too close. Where most creatures dread the ice-locked rivers of Yellowstone, one animal greets them with delight: the river otter. To the otter, the frozen waterways are not a prison, but a playground. The scene opens with a wide, snow-laden valley. The river snakes through, its surface coated in brittle ice, save for patches of flowing water kept alive by hidden springs. Along the banks, small shapes scamper and slide, their brown fur glistening against the white. The otters are here. With sleek, streamlined bodies and dense, waterproof coats, otters embody the very definition of adaptability. Where elk struggle to find food and wolves burn precious energy in hunts, otters glide into icy rivers with ease. They slip under the surface, where life continues despite winter's chokehold. Schools of trout dart beneath the ice, unaware of the shadows above. In a flash, the otter plunges, twisting like a ribbon through the water. Seconds later, it resurfaces with a fish clamped tightly in its jaws. But survival is not their only story. Unlike most of Yellowstone's winter dwellers, otters embrace joy. After feeding, they bound across the snow, deliberately sliding down icy slopes on their bellies like children at play. Again and again, they climb back up, only to launch themselves into another glide. Their playful shrieks echo off the valley walls, a rare song of laughter in a season of silence. Yet their world is not free of hardship. Ice seals much of the river's surface, forcing otters to remember the locations of breathing holes and open pools. If these freeze over, their lifeline is cut. They must also remain alert, while wolves rarely target them. A hungry eagle may swoop if a pup strays too far. For the beaver, survival is not a gamble of strength or speed. It is the reward of foresight, planning, and a lifetime of engineering genius. Hidden beneath the frozen surfaces of Yellowstone's waterways lies a world designed for survival. A dome-shaped lodge rises from the riverbank, its walls thick with mud and sticks hardened by the freeze. From the outside, it looks like nothing more than a lump of ice-coated timber, but within, a family huddles together in warmth. The lodge, sealed tight, is their fortress against the storm. No predator can claw its way inside. No blizzard can breach its walls. Here, the beaver's greatest weapon is preparation. During the lush months of summer and autumn, while others feast without thought of tomorrow, the beaver toils. They cut down willows, aspens, and cottonwoods, dragging the branches into the water with tireless determination. Each branch is stored in a carefully built underwater cache, anchored beneath the pond where the ice cannot reach. This pantry ensures that when Yellowstone is locked in silence, when snow piles 10 feet high and rivers turn to glass, there is food within arm's reach. In the dead of winter, the family retreats to their lodge. There is no need to wander across the frozen expanse, no risk of exposure to wolves or cougars. Instead, they slip through underwater tunnels, secret passageways carved into the pond itself. From the water, they emerge beneath the cache, pulling tender twigs into their fortress. Every bite is a victory of foresight over frost. But life is not without struggle. Sometimes caches run low, or ice forms too thick, cutting off access to stored food. Hunger gnaws, and beavers must gnaw in return, chewing on their lodge walls or whatever scraps remain. In these moments, their planning is tested. Families that worked tirelessly in autumn thrive. Those that did not may fade into silence. Still, there is resilience in their rhythm. The lodge is more than shelter, it is a nursery of endurance. Kits born the previous spring curl beside their parents, warmed by the shared body heat that keeps the inner chamber above freezing. Even when the world outside plummets to -40 degrees Celsius. Every stick that holds the structure together is a lesson written into instinct. Prepare, build, endure. While wolves run in packs. While bison plow snow with brute strength. While foxes dive acrobatically for fleeting prey. The beaver's power lies in patience and persistence. Winter for them is not conquered by force. It is outlasted through labor already done, work already invested, the quiet reward of months spent in preparation. Winter has its giants, bison, elk, and wolves, but it also has its assassins in miniature. Among the snow-draped forests and hidden burrows, the weasel emerges as one of the Rockies' most unlikely yet formidable predators. Small enough to slip through a fistful of snow, fast enough to vanish in the blink of an eye, and fierce enough to take down prey several times its size. This is the ermine, the winter form of the weasel. With the shifting of the seasons, the weasel undergoes a transformation as magical as it is practical. Once cloaked in a brown summer coat, it now dons a pristine white pelt, blending seamlessly into the snowy expanse. Only the black tip of its tail betrays its presence, a flicker against the white canvas of winter. This camouflage is not vanity, it is survival. In a land where hawks, owls, and foxes all hunger for anything that moves, invisibility is the weasel's greatest weapon. But invisibility is only half the story. The weasel is not content to scavenge or pick at leftovers. It is a hunter, through and through. Its body is long and serpentine, perfectly designed to twist and slide into the burrows of voles, mice, and rabbits. With uncanny precision, it follows the scent and warmth of its quarry beneath the snow. Suddenly, a shrill squeak. Then silence. The hunt is over before it has begun. And make no mistake, for all its tiny size, the weasel is a warrior. Fierce, fearless, and endlessly resourceful. It often kills more than it can eat, caching extra prey in hidden tunnels for leaner times. To the untrained eye, this might look like cruelty, but it is a calculated insurance policy in a land where starvation is only ever a snowstorm away. The ermine's white coat also tells another story, a story of constant vigilance. When it darts across open snow, even for a heartbeat too long, a golden eagle might stoop from the sky, or a fox might leap from cover. To survive, the weasel must balance stealth with speed, patience with precision. Every movement is a gamble. Yet despite this daily gauntlet, the weasel thrives. It is proof that survival in winter is not about size or brute strength, but adaptability. Where the bison plows snow with sheer force, and the wolves endure with unity, the weasel survives by being everything at once. Hunter and hunted, invisible and explosive, fragile and ferocious. Beneath the glittering expanse of snow lies a secret kingdom, a bustling civilization few ever see. This is the Subnivean Zone, the narrow gap between the frozen earth and the insulating snowpack. While the surface world struggles with frostbite winds and food scarcity, here the rodents thrive. Voles, mice, and shrews weave a labyrinth of tunnels, safe from the cold and from many predators. To them, Winter is not a barren season, but a hidden age of industry. Tiny claws scratch through roots and frozen soil, carving chambers for food storage, nesting and escape routes. Seeds gathered in autumn are now their treasure, gnawed slowly to stretch survival across months of ice. Roots of shrubs and grasses become lifelines, their soft tissue chewed methodically, leaving faint scars on plants that will only be noticed when spring arrives. The rodent's kingdom is more than a survival trick. It is the very heartbeat of the ecosystem. Above, foxes, weasels, and owls depend on these hidden workers for sustenance. Each vole taken fuels the survival of a predator. Without this vast supply of warm, scampering bodies, the larger hunters of the Rockies would starve. Rodents are the foundation upon which winter's food chain rests, the silent providers in nature's economy. But even below snow, danger seeps in. The stealthy ermine snakes its slender body through rodent tunnels, white as the snow itself, leaving no escape for the unlucky. Foxes, with uncanny hearing, can locate mice scurrying under snow and plunge through with acrobatic dives. Even the great owls hear the faintest rustle beneath, piercing the snow crust with talons like blades. Still, the rodents endure. Their sheer numbers, their ability to reproduce quickly, and their ceaseless activity keep their kingdom alive against impossible odds. Winter after winter, this hidden realm sustains not only its inhabitants, but the grand predators above. As we watch the silent snowdrifts, it's easy to forget the secret lives pulsing below. An underground empire, unseen yet vital, proving that survival is not always about strength or speed, but persistence and quiet resilience. As the blizzards sweep across Yellowstone, some of its most iconic giants are missing. The grizzlies and black bears, the muscle-bound kings of the warmer months, have vanished from sight. While wolves track elk and cougars lie in snowy ambush, the bears are deep in their winter dens, silent, still, and seemingly forgotten. But this absence is no defeat. It is strategy, perhaps the most brilliant of all survival tactics in a land where energy is everything. A grizzly or black bear, despite its size and strength, cannot outmatch the cold and scarcity of a Yellowstone winter. So instead it withdraws. It slows its heart, drops its body temperature, and lives off the fat reserves carefully stacked during the gluttonous days of autumn. Inside these earthen caves and hollowed logs, the giants of Yellowstone lie curled in a suspended state, somewhere between life and sleep. Months pass in near silence. They do not eat, they do not drink, and yet miraculously, they do not wither. Then, in the very heart of winter, something stirs. In January or February, while the outside world is locked in ice, new life quietly begins. A mother bear deep in her den gives birth to cubs scarcely larger than a soda can. Blind, hairless, utterly dependent, these tiny creatures crawl to their mother's warmth, nestling into her fur, sustained only by her milk. It is one of Yellowstone's greatest contrasts. While the rest of the park shivers under snow, and the struggle for food grows ever more desperate, here in the darkness, renewal begins. The park's most fearsome hunters become nurturing mothers, guardians of fragile lives that will not see the sun until spring thaws the land. From the outside, the bears' world is absent. Their tracks vanish with the first snow. No predator dares dig into their dens. To the elk, wolves, and foxes above, it is as if the bears have ceased to exist. But underground, the cycle continues. This is the strange genius of hibernation. While bison stand stoic against storms, while coyotes scrape for hidden voles, and while cougars stake out deer trails in the snow, the bears fight winter in their own way, by not fighting at all. They opt out, surrendering the surface world to the chaos of ice and hunger. And yet, when spring returns, it is they who rise renewed, stepping back into Yellowstone's valleys leaner, but alive, with cubs stumbling behind them. The next generation ready to claim the forests, rivers, and meadows. The snow is the great paradox of Yellowstone's winter. Both destroyer and savior, both ruthless adversary and gentle protector. It falls endlessly, blanketing the land in silence, erasing trails, and remaking the landscape into something both beautiful and deadly. To those who walk, stalk, or scurry across its surface, snow is a constant test, shifting the rules of survival from one storm to the next. For the great hunters, the wolves, it is both an ally and an obstacle. A deep blizzard can weaken elk, their legs sinking into the powder as predators glide more easily on hardened crust. But when the snow piles high and even wolves must drag themselves through waist-deep drifts, the hunters are slowed, their strength sapped, their chase turned into a punishing slog. In this frozen kingdom, the very ground decides who lives and who starves. For elk and bison, snow is a curtain of hardship. Beneath its glittering surface lies the food they desperately need. Grasses, sedges, roots, but the deeper the drifts, the harder it is to reach. Bison lower their massive heads like living snowplows, sweeping aside powder with every thrust of their horned skulls. Each patch of cleared earth is a victory. Yet when ice hardens into an impenetrable crust, even the strongest struggle, the feast is locked beneath a frozen shield. But for the smallest creatures, the snow is a sanctuary. Just beneath its surface lies the subnivean zone, a hidden labyrinth of air pockets and tunnels where voles, mice, and shrews thrive. Here, temperatures remain far warmer than the bitter winds above, and predators have a harder time reaching them. A white, suffocating blanket for some becomes a protective ceiling for others, granting life to the very creatures upon which owls, foxes, and weasels depend. Snow also sculpts the forest in ways subtle and profound. It bends trees under its weight, seals rivers in ice, and carves cornices that may collapse with thunderous force. It muffles sound, giving hunters the silence they crave, while making movement treacherous for the unwary. It glitters with deceptive beauty, a sparkling veil that hides peril beneath. When blizzards descend, the snow becomes pure fury. Winds lash across the open plains, reducing visibility to nothing. Animals hunker down, waiting, knowing that to move in such storms is to court death. Some starve in place, others freeze, and yet when the storm finally passes, life begins again, reshaped but enduring. Snow is Yellowstone's great equalizer. It humbles predator and prey alike, tilting the scales with every flake that falls. The wind howls across Yellowstone, a voice as old as time. It bites through fur, feathers, and even the thick bark of the trees. The cold is not just a temperature, it is a force, an enemy, a constant reminder that in this land, survival is a game of degrees. A single drop too low, and life falters. For the bison, their shaggy coats are armor. Frost gathers on their backs, forming a crust of ice. Yet beneath that thick fur lies warmth preserved by sheer resilience. They push through snowdrifts, but it is the cold that tests their bodies, forcing every calorie to count, every ounce of fat to burn. Wolves, lean and powerful, are built for winter. Their coats double in density. Paws splay wide to cross snow, and their breath steams in the frigid air. Yet even for them, the cold is relentless. Hypothermia lurks in the night, especially for pups and the weak. A missed hunt means shivering, hunger gnawing harder with every plunge of the thermometer. For the smaller creatures, the weasels, the voles, the foxes, winter is not just about snow, but about the temperature it carries. Beneath the snowpack lies a fragile world, warmed ever so slightly by insulation. A vole in its tunnel may find comfort in temperatures 10 or 20 degrees warmer than the surface, but when the cold deepens, even that refuge can freeze, collapsing the fragile balance of survival. The rivers freeze into crystal armor. Water, the essence of life, becomes trapped beneath ice. Otters dive into frigid currents, their thick coats shielding them from the chill, yet even they emerge with frost clinging to their whiskers. Fish move sluggishly, conserving energy as the cold seeps into every vein, every scale. For the birds, the cold is both enemy and companion. Ravens fluff their feathers to trap warmth, wings hunched against the bitter wind. Eagles perch, talons frozen onto icy branches, waiting for the weak to succumb. They do not waste energy, they endure, letting the cold claim what it will, and then claiming their share. And then there are the trees, silent witnesses to endless winters. They endure the freeze with sap thickened, limbs brittle, roots locked in iron ground. The cold shapes even the forest, sculpting the land into stillness, demanding patience until spring returns. The cold does not roar like a wolf or charge like a bison. It waits, it seeps. It creeps into marrow, into veins, into the smallest gap in fur or feather. Hypothermia is a silent killer. No sound, no struggle, just a slowing heartbeat until life fades. Life is measured not in days or weeks, but in degrees. 10 below zero means endurance. 20 below means risk. 40 below means survival, hangs by the thinnest of threads. In a land where winter silences almost everything, Yellowstone hides a secret gift. Its geysers and hot springs. These steaming cauldrons, bubbling pools, and roaring fountains are more than just geological wonders. In the heart of the coldest months, they become rare sanctuaries of warmth and life. While the snow piles high and rivers freeze solid, the earth here breathes heat, offering relief to both plants and animals. For the bison, these geysers are lifelines. Thick-coated and snow-dusted, they gather near steaming vents, standing quietly as geyser mist wraps them like a protective blanket. The ground around thermal features is often warmer, the snow shallower, making it easier for bison to paw through and uncover the grasses beneath. It is no coincidence that many of Yellowstone's oldest bison trails wind directly past thermal areas. Over thousands of years, their instincts have remembered where the earth itself lends a helping hand. But geysers do more than ease the hunger of great beasts. They also create miniature worlds where plant life clings to survival. The ground warmed by hot springs often stays open, giving grasses, mosses, and even hardy shrubs a chance to persist through months that should mean total dormancy. These patches of green shine like emeralds in a desert of white, and in turn, they attract grazers, birds, and even scavengers who know that where life concentrates, food follows. Other animals, too, seek these oases. Coyotes are frequently spotted threading the mist, their keen eyes scanning for small mammals that venture above snowbanks near warm ground. Even tiny chickadees and sparrows flutter close to thermal zones, feeding on seeds from plants that survive here against all odds. To them, the geysers are more than curiosities. They are lifelines, little bursts of survival stitched into the fabric of winter's grip. Of course, Yellowstone's thermal features come with risks. The very heat that sustains can also scald, and the crust near pools is fragile, thin, and treacherous. Animals know instinctively to tread carefully. But there are times when hunger, desperation, or misstep can turn a warm haven into a trap. The balance of Yellowstone, even in its gifts, remains edged with danger. Still, the geysers endure as one of winter's paradoxes. In the season when nearly everything else is locked down by frost, these steaming vents remind all creatures that Yellowstone's lifeblood runs beneath the surface. The same forces that sculpted the mountains and carved the valleys still pulse here, keeping tiny pockets of the wilderness alive. And so, in the stillness of January, when the wind howls and the land seems barren, the geysers hiss, bubble, and roar. Bison huddle close, coyotes stalk their edges, and hardy plants cling to the warmth of the earth's breath. When the winds whip across Yellowstone's plains, and the snow comes driving sideways in blinding sheets, there is one place where life still finds refuge: the forest. Here, the towering sentinels of pine and fir stand shoulder to shoulder, their evergreen needles defiant against the white curtain of winter. The trees bend and creak under the weight of snow, branches sagging with crystalline burdens, but they do not break, they endure, and in their endurance, they offer sanctuary. To the mule deer and elk that wander from open valleys, the forest is a fortress. Between the thick trunks, the snow lies shallower, less hostile, shielded from the relentless winds. Here, they can paw through to brittle grasses, or rest in hollows swept bare by the tree's own limbs. Owls glide silently between the canopies, using the forest as both hunting ground and cover. From their perches, they scan the snowy floor for the faintest rustle beneath the surface. A vole tunneling, a mouse breaking through to nibble bark. In an instant, talons strike, and the forest provides a feast. For smaller mammals, the trees themselves are lifelines. Pine martens slip through the underbrush, masters of stealth who thrive in this labyrinth of roots and logs. Red squirrels, those tireless hoarders, dart across branches, their caches of pine cones tucked away in crevices long before the snow fell. Even in the coldest storms, they chatter defiantly, as though mocking winter's attempt to silence them. The forest is not silent, though it often seems so. Snow dampens sound, muffling footsteps, muting the crash of distant avalanches. Yet life continues, hushed but unbroken. A porcupine clambers up a trunk, gnawing at the bark beneath the insulating snowpack. Snowshoe hares, perfectly camouflaged in their white winter coats, sit motionless under low branches, trusting stillness more than speed to guard them against sharp-eyed predators. But the forest is not only a refuge, it can also become a trap. Heavy snow, layered storm after storm, sometimes collapses branches onto the unwary. The same trees that provide cover can funnel predators closer to their prey. Wolves slip into the forest's edge, moving like shadows, their paws cushioned by the snow. Here, elk are at their most vulnerable. The narrow spaces make escape harder, the dense cover giving predators the advantage. Still, the balance holds. For every life taken, another finds safety. For every predator's advantage, another prey animal gains shelter. The forest, bending but never breaking, is Yellowstone's great equalizer. As the storm outside rages, muffling the open plains, the forest holds steady. Snow piles higher, branches sag lower, but the canopy still stands guard. Winter transforms Yellowstone's rivers and lakes into frozen arteries, veins of ice that both stifle and sustain life. At first glance, they seem lifeless, sealed away beneath crystalline shells of white and blue. But beneath that frozen lid, a world persists, stubbornly refusing to yield. The cutthroat trout, iconic to Yellowstone's waters, continue their quiet existence below the ice. Oxygen grows scarcer in sealed ponds, but moving rivers provide just enough flow to keep them alive. Here, in the dim world beneath winter's grip, these fish embody patience, biding their time until spring loosens the ice and brings abundance once more. For predators, like river otters and bald eagles, these trout remain a lifeline, a hidden banquet buried in the cold. The otters, with their playful resilience, flourish in this harsh season. They slip easily beneath the ice, sliding into half-hidden openings where the current still runs free. To the otter, winter is not a hardship, but a stage for acrobatics and plenty. Where humans might see a frozen wasteland, the otter sees a playground and a pantry stocked with fish. Their joy, set against the silent severity of the rivers, brings life and laughter to Yellowstone's frozen veins. Then there are the beavers, whose survival hinges entirely on what the rivers provide. In the warmer months, their tireless labor shapes the waters, lodges built strong, dams redirecting flow, caches of branches stacked carefully under the surface. Now, in the heart of winter, that foresight pays off. Their underwater larders supply bark and twigs to gnaw through long nights, while the ice above their lodges insulates them from predators and the worst of the cold. For them, the frozen rivers are not a threat but a fortress, proof that preparation means survival. Around these frozen veins, wildlife gathers. Elk, deer, and bison paw at the edges, seeking water where currents keep patches open. Eagles wait, wings tucked tight against the cold, their sharp eyes scanning for any trout made vulnerable by the ice. Even wolves prowl the frozen shores, their movements deliberate, knowing that hunger drives them to every possible food source. But winter's grip is merciless. Rivers that usually flow free grow sluggish with ice, while lakes disappear under thick sheets that seem to erase their very existence. In this stillness lies both danger and protection, a paradox. Fish, safe from some predators, must also contend with the risk of suffocation. Otters thrive because others cannot reach the waters they command. Beavers endure because their past work secures their present survival. The rivers and lakes of Yellowstone in winter are not silent at all. They are beating hearts, slowed but steady. Beneath the frost, beneath the suffocating white, life continues to pulse. Daylight in Yellowstone is already a test of endurance. But when the sun dips behind the snow-draped ridges, the true ruler of winter awakens. The night. Darkness spreads like an ink spill over the land, swallowing valleys, forests, and rivers until the world feels reduced to shadow and silence. The temperature plummets, winds sharpen, and survival becomes even more uncertain. For the creatures that call Yellowstone home, the night is both an opportunity and a danger. For prey, it is a time of heightened vulnerability. For predators, it is a curtain behind which they thrive. High above the snowfields, a ghostly shape drifts silently. The great horned owl, wings stretched wide, becomes a phantom of the night. Unlike the clumsy flaps of diurnal hunters, owls move without a whisper, their feathers engineered to muffle sound. They perch with unwavering patience, ears tuned to the faint scuttle of voles beneath the snowpack. Then, with talons like curved daggers, they strike, often before the prey even realizes its doom. To the small mammals of Yellowstone, nightfall is not merely dark, it is a death sentence carried on silent wings. But the owl is not alone in its rule. Across the valleys, wolves stir under the moonlight. Their hunts, already grueling in daylight, grow more unpredictable in darkness. Snow crunches beneath padded paws as they weave between trees and frozen streams. Their howls split the night, eerie cries that travel for miles, shattering the silence like a haunting chorus. For elk, bison, and deer, these howls are more than sound. They are signals of pursuit, reminders that survival must be earned even in the most unforgiving hours. Yet, the night is not all menace. For some, it offers protection. Snowshoe hares, cloaked in white, become nearly invisible against the snow. Their large padded feet allow them to move quickly across drifts, evading predators under cover of darkness. The same night that enables owls to hunt also grants prey a fighting chance through stealth and camouflage. Even the landscape itself seems to transform. Rivers turn black and still, their frozen surfaces reflecting the pale glow of stars. Trees creak and groan under the weight of snow, while distant geysers hiss into the darkness, clouds of steam rising like spectral guardians. The night belongs to shadows, and in those shadows, life clings fiercely to existence, For humans who dare to wander Yellowstone's winter nights, the experience is otherworldly. The silence is absolute, broken only by the crack of ice or the distant cry of a predator. The air is so cold it burns with each breath, and every flicker of movement feels magnified by the darkness. It is here, in this realm of frost and moonlight, that one realizes the true power of Yellowstone's winters. Not in storms or blizzards, but in the endless patience of the night. In Yellowstone, winter does not reward strength alone. It rewards strategy. Every creature that endures the frozen months must answer the same ancient question: how will you survive? For some, the answer lies in migration. Elk and pronghorn move across vast distances, abandoning higher slopes for lower valleys where snow is thinner and forage still exists. Their journey is one of endurance, threading along ancient migration corridors etched into memory over centuries. Theirs is a gamble, leaving the familiar to chase survival across dangerous terrain, yet without it, starvation is certain. Others prepare in advance, practicing the art of fat storage. Grizzly bears gorge themselves on berries, fish, and carrion through summer and fall, building reserves to sustain them through months of hibernation. Their bodies become vaults of energy, every ounce of fat a ticket to spring. Even smaller creatures, ground squirrels and marmots, stuff themselves in warmer months, retreating underground to let the winter rage above while they rest in suspended animation. Their strategy is silence, stillness, and patience. Then there are the masters of camouflage. The ermine, once brown in summer, transforms into a ghostly white phantom against the snow. Only the black tip of its tail betrays its presence, a clever distraction meant to confuse predators. Snowshoe hares do the same, exchanging russet coats for winter whites, blending seamlessly into drifts and shadows. Camouflage is not merely a disguise, it is a language of survival, where invisibility is safety, yet survival is not always a solitary act. For some, the key lies in teamwork. Wolves embody this truth most vividly. Alone, a wolf cannot take down an elk or bison, but together, in coordinated packs, they become relentless strategists. They communicate through howls and subtle body signals, working as one organism to outlast and outmaneuver prey. Even in the dead of winter, their cohesion ensures they remain apex predators of Yellowstone. Smaller animals, too, rely on cooperation. Beavers, by building lodges and storing caches of branches underwater, ensure their families survive when the rivers freeze solid. Their dams reshape entire ecosystems, providing shelter not just for themselves, but for fish, amphibians, and countless others. In their persistence lies the blueprint of survival for many. In Yellowstone's winter, death is not an end, it is a beginning. A fallen elk beneath the snow becomes a feast for ravens, their black wings stark against the white. Soon, coyotes arrive, yipping as they tear into the frozen flesh. Wolves may drive them off, and later, even smaller scavengers pick over the remains. Nothing is wasted. In this frozen land, one life fuels many others. Even the bones, left to bleach under the pale sun, enrich the soil when spring returns. Death is a currency of survival, traded across species and seasons. And then, almost imperceptibly, the grip of winter begins to ease. Days lengthen. Sunlight lingers longer on ridgelines, dripping warmth into the valleys. Snowpack shrinks, revealing brown grasses beneath. Winter has not been defeated, only endured. As winter begins to loosen its icy grip, the story of Yellowstone's frozen kingdom comes full circle. What began as a season of silence and shadow emerges as a tale of resilience, survival, and the timeless cycle of life. The great predators have endured hunger and hardship. Some hunts ended in triumph, others in failure. The herds of elk and bison, gaunt but alive, now carry the promise of a new generation within them. Even the smallest creatures, the voles beneath the snow, the owls in their forest shelters, and the fish locked beneath ice have found a way to endure. Every struggle has meaning. Every sacrifice fuels the continuation of life. The scavengers feast on winter's casualties, ensuring that nothing is wasted, that even death has purpose in this cycle. And as the sun returns, painting the mountains with golden light, Yellowstone begins to breathe again. Buds push through thawing earth, rivers swell with snowmelt, and voices of life fill the valleys once more. But Yellowstone's story is not only one of nature's resilience, it is also one of human influences. Tourism brings millions each year, eager to glimpse bison, wolves, and geysers. Their presence fuels conservation funding, education, and a deeper appreciation for wilderness. Yet with every footprint and vehicle, there is pressure. Roads fragment habitats, noise disrupts hunting and migration, and waste threatens pristine waters. Beyond the park's borders, climate change stretches its fingers across the ecosystem. Winters grow shorter, snowpacks shrink, and species that depend on the deep freeze like cutthroat trout and snowshoe hares face an uncertain future. Still, Yellowstone endures, thanks to tireless conservation efforts. Reintroduction of wolves restored balance. Protected lands provide sanctuary. And ongoing research offers hope that humans can learn to tread more gently. Will we honor this fragile balance, or will our impact tip the scales? Yellowstone has shown us that survival is possible, but only with respect, stewardship, and humility before forces older and greater than ourselves. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments. If this journey gripped you, don't miss out on our dive into the wilderness of Antarctica.